Hey, so this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly reading series hosted by Misery Tourism. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and, yes, transgressive writers to share their work. I'm not going to, it's been a wild fucking week. I'm not going to do a big introduction here. I'm just going to jump right into this thing. First up tonight is Jesse. Jesse, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. I'll put the link to your piece in the chat.
Okay.
Now last week, I think you read an excerpt from a spy novel that you're working on.
Two weeks ago, yeah, that's what I'm working on, and that's what this is part of.
Awesome. It's all yours.
First of all, I want to say I'm not a member of the alt-right, and I'm not a crypto-fascist. I think I'm not a transgressive writer either, maybe more of an outsider writer, I guess, in a way. So this is my piece. Hold on, let me get to it. Maybe this is transgressive in some way. I don't know. I weave a rope to strangle all those who write from left to right. The Bangladeshi waterworks engineer named Mazharul Khan has only ever seen one pornographic film in his life, The Pretty Woman, starring the American Julia Roberts and the Buddhist extremist polytheist Richard Gere. Mazharul had to leave the fetid, dank underground cinema in Lahore where the film was playing when the scratchy, poorly dubbed print got caught inside the projector and seized upon a still of Roberts laughing in a bathtub. And then the film melted. Mazharul was traumatized. It was the kind of event in his life which, when compounded together with a host of other personal and spiritual factors too complex to recount, caused him to feel revulsion at Western culture. He was horrified at his wrongdoing. He felt Satan lingering everywhere he turned. He felt distant from Allah and knew it had been himself that had moved, not Allah who never moves. He tried to erase the traces of pornography by watching other movies that strengthened and undergirded his new faith in Islam. He felt like he needed to find media from the belly of the godless dragon to refute the evil with. It was hard to explain, even to himself, but it wouldn't do to find cinema from outside the radius of sin drawn by Hollywood in America. He had to find the tools to destroy it from within. He soon found several Western films on DVD that aligned with his spiritual needs, the films of Steven Spielberg. The first movie starring Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, called Curse of the Monotheist, was about how people were trying to capture Allah in a box, but he couldn't be contained. The second movie was about how Indy was trying to find some polytheist stones from the jungle fortress and show the polytheists the errors of their ways, even as he returned the stones to the townspeople. The third film, The Cup of Jesus, was about how the Nazis were distracted by worship of man and couldn't understand monotheism, and they needed Indy to show them which was the right way, even if it destroyed them. Mazharul branched out and saw other Spielberg movies. Mazharul's spiritual leader, Abul Haseb, instructed him that Close Encounters of the Third Kind was actually a movie about mysticism, with the dazzling throne from Ezekiel coming down to take Jewish actor Richard Dreyfuss away to Allah. Jaws was an allegory about how Allah punishes the Western societies for their shameless nudity by sending a great Leviathan to eat them up. Mazharul Khan went to school for engineering and was computer literate, and he found himself writing many pieces of film criticism online under the instruction of Abul Haseb. All his opinions were supported by citations from the Quran and the Sunnah. With Abul Haseb's guidance and instruction, he drew from the Sahih al-Bukhari, which is the most important collection of anecdotes about the sayings and doings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Mazharul's film blogs were connected to a website called Ribat al-Tanzi, or Fortified Monastery of De-Anthropomorphism, which under the teachings of Abul Haseb taught that God has as many qualities as he has names, but none of them were embodied in spite of the body parts enumerated in the Holy Quran. This was in the time after Al-Qaeda had knocked down the two World Trade Centers and caused the USA to hunt for them all over the globe. Mazrul had an urge to go to Afghanistan and then Iraq and fight the Crusaders, but the Qadi Abu Hasab instructed him to be careful and try to put himself at the disposal of the Mujahideen in other ways. He could write pamphlets for the jihad and put them online where only men interested in holy war could find them. Mazrul followed the Qadi Abu Hasab to Kashmir to fight. Mazrul presented Abu Hasab with a plan to detonate explosives at a dam in India flooding a city. Abu Hasab nixed the plot on the grounds that jihad via flooding the enemy is not Quranically permitted, according to Ibn Qudama's reporting on the first Caliph Abu Bakr, as well as al-Marginani's Hidayah, Sahnun's al-Mudawana, al-Shirazi's al-Muhaddab, and Hamidullah's Muslim Conduct, better to fight with the pen. He went around saying things in English like, I weave a rope to strangle all those who write from left to right, and the other fighters in the mountains laughed at him since his Arabic was awful. He became a courier because he had nothing on his record. He was given no sweat by the authorities. He went undercover from Kashmir to the Caucasus, to Turkey, to Cairo, to Tunisia, where Gurgis Lukash had shot many scenes from Star Wars 4: A New Hope, and where Mazrul was newly based. He carried by hands messages on SD cards for the intricate network of jihadi groups that would be otherwise intercepted, as well as bank account info so they could keep the coffers full. He took up a video camera and made videos of North African jihadis training and Qadis like Abu Hasab giving their abstruse juridical opinions on the finer points of moral arguments on jihad. Sometimes the opinion videos went on for hours. Abu Hasab and his ilk were long-winded. There exists a photo of Mazrul, who changed his Nam de guerre to Kaftullah, Arabic for I feared God, a photo from the Kashmir days, and it was ferreted from deep in the heart of the jihadi sphere by Western intelligence analysts like Indisha. In the picture, Kaftullah, like many jihadis of that region and that time period, wears makeup, mascara, eyeshadow, and blush for the camera. It must have been some Kashmiri fancy magic because they all did it. These were supposed to be noble commemorative portraits to be seen after they died. They were beautiful servants of God. It was said in the Kashmir mountains that when a jihadi died, you could hear birds singing and smell perfume. Kaftullah dressed up his face that day for the portraits. It filled up his heart with fabulous anticipation of death. But Kaftullah didn't die.
That was fantastic. I'm really excited. I'm really excited about this novel that you're working on, because just like the last piece you read, I'm so like enraptured by the way you use details here and the like very intricate portrait of this guy's life you present, and very fucking funny portrait too. Like everything about like the kind of jihadist interpretation of films, like you know what it reminded me of? I grew up in a very like Christian household, right? Christian radio blaring all the time. And there would always be these like Christian film reviews. Like, is this like obviously secular movie okay from a Christian perspective? And like your usage of that, of obviously it's in the context of Islam here. Like it's so sharp and it's so funny here, and I loved it.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jesse.
Sure.
Up next is Michael.
Cool. Let me just share this. Yes, this is a new short story. I finished the draft today, so this is the first draft. So if I stumble over anything, apologies. Definitely not done with this, but thought I'd take it for a spin, see what people think. Cool. So it's called The Red Bird. My 6-year-old son stretches his arms out to their limit as he describes his latest nightmare. They had long arms like this, he says. My son, animated at the edge of his chair, his voice unsteady in a way that betrays the lingering terror inside. Also big eyes, he continues, like weird circles. Ovals, I say. Ovals, my son repeats. Then I ask him, What did they do? My son is gazing at our cat Felix, who's chewing dry food in his corner of the kitchen by the back door. He says, "They stood around my bed, like in a circle." "That's all?" I ask. "They wanted me to go with them. They said I had to go with them," my son says. The wooden chair beneath him squeaks as he inches forward. "I didn't want to, so that's when I yelled, for you and Mom." I take a bite of toast and watch my son busy himself with his cereal again. He arranges some of the milk sog shapes in a line before selecting one with his spoon and raising it to his mouth. Then the word work drifts through my mind. My son asks, "Can I go to work with you today?" I smile and say, "Not today." "That was fun the other time. Take your kid to work day," he says. "It was. We'll do another one soon." "And I won't have to go to school?" "Definitely not." He resumes eating, smiling now. My wife enters and takes the mug of coffee from the counter, the one I poured for her. I feel her fingers draw 3 lines across my back. I know she hasn't slept, and rather than toss and dwell on the screams of our son once he'd settled down, she went into her office in the spare bedroom to type up ad copy. She almost always works from home. She kisses my son on the head, then the same spot on mine, before leaving the room again. So much of our relationship operates in these quiet circles. It worried me when we first started dating, but as time passed, I learned it was simply how my wife communicated. Finger strokes, the press of lips to warm skin, the unspoken steel of her soul. I listen as she climbs the stairs. The word rush creeps through me like a spider. Hours later, I'm sitting in the crimson stoplight northbound bleed of traffic out of Boston. Luckily, I'm not in any particular rush. Cool air from the vent paws my face as a news report drones. I want to relish this soft muddle of noise before the night's combat against the unseen enemies of my son. Maybe I should just tell him about my nightmares as a kid, I say aloud. I spot an opening ahead on the highway and push my foot against the gas pedal. My sedan purrs like an old cat as it settles behind a truck after gaining a few feet in the gridlock. Horns erupt behind me and I smirk. But he'll want to know why it's happening to him. That's when the questions will start. Did he inherit from me some weakness for nightmares? The line of traffic to the left starts to move, and the driver I'd cut off slips by. I think the words wife and no. Maybe I'll tell him that some doctors believe that dreams like his are leftover memories from birth. That's all. There's no reason to be scared. They want you to go with them because that's what the doctor said to you as you were born. Then I think, but he's not going to understand any of that. And when he drifts into that uneasy limbo, they'll come back for him and he'll scream our names and renew the cycle of exhaustion. Next week, we'll get another call from school about desk naps and slippery grades. I'll tell them again that it's the nightmares again, and then hear, but not hear, as they wonder what we've done to our child. The traffic reporter on the radio bleats something about a cargo truck broken down across 3 lanes, how the rush to escape the city is backed up for miles, how everyone is always waiting this time of day. I drum my fingers on the steering wheel. I think again about what I can tell my son, what I can say to protect him from himself. I've always prided myself on my ability to communicate, to use the exact words necessary in any situation. It's a product of my gift. I'd never claimed to be a psychic, but every so often I'll catch a wisp of someone's thoughts, a word here, a sentence there, a premonition of where a conversation will head next. If I really concentrate and do something that's best described as clearing all the air from my head, I'll access something deeper, a blast of emotion, a gust through the window of a mind as I briefly tug it open. It's strongest with those close to me, friends, my brother, my wife. It's different with my son. I've tried for years to peer inside, to understand this mirror image of me. But there's never anything more than what sometimes rises to the surface. From the base of the stairwell, I listen as my wife reads a story to my son. For a few weeks now, we've tried eliminating TV time before bed to see if that might help. It hasn't so far. The night before, my son flew howling into our bedroom, telling us that the beings tried to remove his head after he refused to go with them. He twisted and sobbed as my wife rubbed his head. I watched, almost afraid to touch him, as the havoc of his nightmares thundered through his body. Now I grip the handrails and follow the rise and fall of her words and the places when she chooses to take a breath. When the story is done, I climb the stairs and go into his room. He's resting on his side beneath a comforter with prints of dolphins and whales in the sea. My wife stands and moves past me. Our fingers graze. I sit on the edge of the bed and feel my bones ache as my body bends. Then my son asks me, "Am I going to have a scary dream again?" "You might," I tell him. My son stares past me to the window at the far end of his room. It overlooks our side yard, and beyond it, the road washed pearl by the solar-powered streetlights. Then I ask, "Have I ever told you about my nightmares as a kid?" My son shakes his head. "I used to dream about this big red bird," I say. "You know those robins we see in our backyard sometimes?" "Yeah." "Like one of those, but much bigger and redder, unlike any other bird you've ever seen." "That's weird," says my son. I laugh. "Yes, it is in retrospect," I say. "What's retrospect?" "Like looking back." "Oh." "So I used to dream about this big red bird. Sometimes it would follow me in my dreams or chase me around. It ate me once or twice." "Were you scared?" "I was very scared." "So what happened?" "Well, Grandma and Grandpa told me I shouldn't be worried. They said I would grow out of it, and I was pretty worried I wouldn't. Then one night I had this dream where this small white bird appeared and talked to the red bird. I don't remember what they said, but I remember that before I woke up, I saw them fly off together." "And then what happened?" "I stopped having the nightmare." "Do you think that might happen to me?" I tell my son, "You know how Mom and I have to buy new shoes for you every year? You're always outgrowing things. You'll outgrow this too." Then I kiss him on the forehead and switch off the light on his bedside table. I go into the hallway and close the door. I linger, the gravity beneath me slightly askew, like the floor has been warped beneath the constant passage of a petrified child. I go downstairs to the kitchen and drink some water from the tap. I stare through the window into the unlit mass outside. The darkness appears to shift as my eyes and mind search for any pattern of movement. Felix curls around my leg and meows, his voice thick with age. I feel my child through the ceiling above me, a sense of exposure I can't explain. I ascend the stairs and approach his door, gently turn the knob and let myself in. Comforter pushed away, my son is asleep on his back, breathing open-mouthed. Felix follows me in. I close the door and ease down to the carpet, cross my legs and adjust to the swamp of the dark. The light from the street smudges the ceiling by the window. Felix sags against my lap, and as he does, I force the air from inside my head and reach for whatever it is my son is thinking. But I get nothing. I scratch Felix for a while and shift my back against the door, against the encroaching soreness. I relax in the warmth and the stillness of the room as I wonder if I should join my wife. A presence, like a blanket made of static electricity, is what stirs me. My eyelids peel back and I cannot move. A buzz smothers me as I watch four beings translucent, beings with heads that skim the ceiling, beings with fingers spread like the radials of a web from the ends of spindly arms. I manage to twist my head and watch my son, now awake and upright, his eyes deadbolt to the opaline gaze of the beings. I don't know if they're saying something to him, but he's listening, shaking like a thing that knows it's going to die. The beings give no sign of taking notice of me. Instead, they reach for my son, their arms and hands like bridges made of moonlight, the invitation to come, just like he told us. I feel my son shift in his bed, like his legs are prepared to lift him. Then from the dark beside me comes a scarlet flash of feathers screeching, bounding for the beings, talons slashing at the iridescence, a shriek that's so familiar, a gale against the squall of glass and flesh, against a din of fearful voices just beyond the reach of human hearing. Now they, gone, and in their place, feet clenching the ruined windowsill, stands a great red bird, maybe 3 feet high, its midnight eyes on my son. Everything hangs in frozen silence until Felix pads across the carpet and raises his body to the red bird. The red bird cocks its head and bends down, and its beak brushes against Felix's nose. As I watch their ritual of animal communication, a magnetism bears me down through the floor and through the bones of our home, down to the earth's blazing dynamo, the fiery heart from which all of us are born, and swallowed by shadow and iron and nothing. I smell carpet and dust when I wake. I'm lying in a pool of warm light from the window. Through the glass, I hear robins busy themselves in the branches outside. I look at my son. He's curled beneath his comforter, lost in sleep. Felix nestled and silent at his feet. I slip into his bed, pull my son against my chest, and match my breathing with his. What I then feel reminds me of the seashore just after dawn, the touch of the water against sand undisturbed, for now, by any other living thing, the slow advance of sun, safe with the knowledge that we survived the passage of the night. And that's it.
I thought I knew where that was going. I did not. No, that was fantastic. I particularly like the ending is fucking stunning. The ending is spectacular, and I like the subtle way. And you often in your writing you have this really subtle way of incorporating elements that like build this sense of like slight unease. Like it's this gradual introduction of like supernatural or unreal elements into an otherwise very mundane story. And the way you do this here, and the way you kind of, and also the way that you play with the possible like unreliability of the father's perspective, like his perception that he's psychic, right? And you're reading and you're like, huh, like has a supernatural element just been introduced here, or are we just kind of experiencing this guy's like subtle delusions, the same kind of subtle delusions that everyone kind of carries around. And then that final sequence and the culmination of it, which is that like you're still not sure, right? He wakes up and you're still not sure what has transpired. And I don't know, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful piece of writing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. When I was a kid, I had like awful crippling nightmares about alien abductions. Like I read like a book about alien abductions when I was in like the 3rd grade, and for
Oh, no.
years, like just awful, like could never sleep. It was just miserable. But I also, before that, I was just very prone to nightmares as a kid,
Mhm.
and I didn't put it in the story, but there was a song that my mom used to sing to me about like this like robin in a tree, and for whatever reason, like it just petrified me as a kid. So I used to just dream about this red bird. So yeah, I don't know. I just had this idea of like writing about nightmares, and this kind of came out. So I'm glad you liked
Oh,
it. I
wow.
appreciate the thoughts.
It's really funny that like what was obviously supposed to be this kind of soothing lullaby turns into this source of nightmares. You really channeled that well in this story too, where this being that's like a nightmare kind of becomes a soothing lullaby. So I don't know, the tension there is kind of funny. But no, it was a great story. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
And Dan joined just in the last 3 minutes of your story or something. So that's perfect timing because he's up next. Are you with us, Dan? Give him a second here. I know he just came on. He may be configuring his phone. Can you hear us, Dan? For all I know, maybe it's another Dan who just joined. Wouldn't that be something? He may still be configuring. Give him just a little while here before we move on, especially since he was one of the last ones on the docket for tonight. Dan, if you're here and you can hear me, even if you could just type something into the chat to let us know if you're like getting ready to go here or if you need some time, because if you need some time, we can move on. Rudy had some things.
Hey, were you talking to me?
Yeah, Dan, there you are.
Oh, hi. I was just kicking someone out. I was like, I'm leaving back to BC in a couple of days, so I was saying goodbye to the friends that I have here. But I can bring up
no
the
problem
story
at
real
all.
quick.
You actually just joined at the perfect time because the Michael was before you on the queue here and he just finished.
Okay, sweet.
So you're actually going to be reading a piece we published today, right?
Yeah. In case anyone, I got it open right now.
Okay, I just put it in the chat.
We're ready to go.
It's all yours.
Cool. This one's called 1,000-Yard Stare. In a skirmish line, the squad runs around the wire of the base. We will get gas today. We're running in a circle around the base. We're wearing gas masks. We inspected the respirators before we went running. The inside of my mask is full of sweat. The goggle lenses are foggy, and the sky is foggy. Peterson's back is a foggy green and brown blur. We're getting gas today. We are a long, foggy brown and green centipede circling the base. The line stops. I see a foggy green building. We are getting gas today. The foggy sergeant says, "Ladies, you are being gassed today." Yesterday we sat in desks. A civilian told us about CS gas. CS gas hooks into mucous membranes. Even if you don't open your mouth, your lungs will feel like they are on fire. The tiny pores covering the skin are big enough for the molecules of CS gas to sneak their way inside your body. CS gas will fuck your skin until it's on fire. Even if your eyes are shut, CS gas will infiltrate your tear ducts and set your eyes on fire. The civilian doesn't say exactly this, but everyone in the squad infers it, then silently confirms it when they lock eyes with the person sitting next to them. The sergeant opens the airtight door, and the foggy green and brown centipede crawls in. The sergeant screams at us to stay in a line. Do not spread out. Stay in a line, the sergeant says. Grab the shoulders of the person in front of you. I grab Peterson's shoulders. Randhawa grabs my shoulders. Peterson grabs Moretti's shoulders. Moretti grabs Lafayette's shoulders. Lee grabs Randhawa's shoulders. We are a foggy green and brown centipede. We are wearing special uniforms. They are airtight, like the building. Our masks form a hermetic seal with the hoods of our jackets. The door closes behind us. I hear hissing. Yesterday, the civilian told us these uniforms are for chemical and biological warfare. We are wearing green and brown prophylactics. Inside these uniforms, tiny particles cannot fuck our pores, our lungs, or our tear ducts. The sergeant screams, "Remove your right hand from the shoulder of the person in front of you and grab the bottom of your mask." The only light in the room goes dark. Yesterday, the civilian told us about how the CS gas particles and how they're going to fuck us when we take off our masks. Then that civilian left and another one came in. He was a psychologist. He wanted to tell us about pain. He assured us he was not a pussy. He was in Desert Storm. He said that this pain will not be like getting shot in the stomach or having the bottom 3 fingers of our left hand blown off. It will be worse. He said it will be made worse by the atmosphere surrounding the pain. We will be disoriented. The room will be dark. We will all be disoriented and we will want to panic. We will be in excruciating pain. Psychologically, he said, it will be less like getting shot in the stomach from 1,000 yards away by a person who doesn't know our names and more like being tortured. Our squad kept silent. No one shifted in their chair. The civilian looked at her eyes, but he saw through them. Our eyes were holes and he could see the wall behind us. The civilian told us about an Iraqi man he met. The Iraqi man was buried up to his neck in sand for 2 days. The Iraqi man could not move and his head was cooked under the Arabian sun for 2 days. His interrogators buried the 1-liter bottle of water in front of his face with a straw leading from the bottom of the bottle to his mouth. The civilian said that the Iraqi man said he survived by watching the shadow of the straw move. He didn't crack because he would watch a bug slowly walk across his line of sight. Inside his head, the Iraqi cheered for the bug in anticipation of the straw shadow separating from his own. For 2 days, the Iraqi men cheered for the bugs and waited for the straw shadow to turn while the sun arced over his head. The civilian said, the key to surviving pain or torture is dividing time into tiny increments. Pain is made worse when it all comes at once. Divide the pain into small moments. Focus on the minuscule movements. Randhawa said, what about thinking about our parents? The civilian shook his head. I was going to ask if we should think about our girlfriends, not loved ones. People we miss, warm arms, not foggy and covered in green and brown. The civilian said that thinking about her parents, girlfriends, cats, dogs, grandparents, or any other nice old people we know just make the pain worse. The civilian looked at the back of the wall through our eyes one more time, then said, all right, tomorrow you get gassed. A red light turns on above the door ahead of us. It is right above Lafayette. The light shines on me and the fog on my goggles is red. The sweat on the inside of the glass condenses and I watch tiny drops fall down along the lens. The sergeant says, remove your masks. We all inhale deeply, out of instinct, before we tear off the masks. Then the particles begin fucking us. My face catches fire, then my eyes fill with hot needles. I feel the gas sliding down my neck, and my now useless brown and green prophylactic. Every tiny pore on my skin is fucked and set on fire by an even smaller CS gas particle. Lee's fingers dig into Randhawa's trapezoids. Randhawa's fingers dig into my trapezoids. My fingers dig into Peterson's trapezoids. Peterson digs into Moretti, digs into Lafayette. None of us scream. The sergeant laughs and apologizes. He still has his mask on. With my eyes closed, there is no bug or straw shadow. I think about my girlfriend and how I forgot to ask her when I left about what shampoo she uses so I can buy a lot of it and wash my own hair with it and then rub my head on my pillowcase so that maybe I might trick myself into thinking she's been with me the whole time. But that just makes it worse. The civilian was right. Alarm goes off. I open my eyes, see the red light change to green, and immediately regret opening my eyes. I feel a gust of air and the green and brown centipede rushes outside. We all scream for water. The gas fucked our throats and now we're thirsty. The sergeant says water will make it worse. We don't believe him, but trust him anyways. I drop to the grass and puke. Puking makes it worse. I start crying. Crying makes it worse. Last week we got gassed. Today they let us go home for a week to see our mommies. The sergeant says, he laughed and then apologized. I'm hungover and fall asleep on the plane. My girlfriend is waiting for me when I get off the plane. I love her. She is smart and pretty and funny and smells good and doesn't call me a pussy when I sprain my ankle while carrying 100 pounds of shit on my back running uphill. She turns her head and kisses me on the cheek when I hug her. We hold hands walking to her car. She is slower than I am, and I don't know where she parked. On the drive back down to town, she asks me how basic was. I tell her it was fine. I ask her how school was going, and she talks until we get to my parents' house. The car lurches into the driveway and she stops. The keys are still in the ignition. I say, "Are you going to come in? My parents are still on holidays." She says no. She says she has to set up for a party in her residence on campus. I can come if I want to. I should wear something nice and she'll pick me up in a couple of hours. She kisses me on the cheek. I get out of the car and she drives away. My room is the same. My mom vacuumed the carpet, but there are cobwebs on the ceiling. All my clothes are hanging in the closet still. They're all a little bit dusty, but the suit I wore to grad doesn't smell that bad. I smell bad. My parents retiled the bathroom. The water coming out of the shower head is soft and warm. I miss the shower head. The blazer of my graduation suit is tight around the shoulders, arms, and chest. The pants are loose around my waist, but tighter around my thighs and calves. This is the only part of the suit that fits. When I hear my girlfriend honking her horn outside, I stop trying to stretch my pants without tearing them. Inside our car, I can smell her hair from the passenger seat. I reach over and squeeze her hand. The music blasting from her CD player is terrible. The singer sounds like a pussy. His acoustic guitar sounds like it is made of rubber bands in a shoebox. My girlfriend hums along to it. The residence building is 5 stories tall and has 68 windows on its west side. Inside, the people look like old friends. They smile and laugh and bump into each other to show affection for one another. It's nice here. Someone offers me a drink and I take it. My girlfriend bumps into me and smiles. She recognizes the person. They talk and I sip out of my red plastic cup. Another person comes over and starts talking. 2 people walk towards me and I say, "Hello, how are you?" They say, "Good, how are you?" I say, "Good." They keep walking. These are nice people. I sip out of my red cup and I see 2 guys who look like they could have been my friends in high school play ping pong. The white plastic ball slows down. The music lowers until I can't hear it anymore. I follow the plastic ball over the net, hit the table, and float towards a guy with a blue paddle. Then it floats back over the net, slides down, hits the table, and bounces towards the guy's red paddle. The ball missed the red paddle and clicked against the wall. It clicks on the floor, clicks on the floor, clicks on the clicks. "Excuse me, did someone die?" a voice says. The voice came from a guy. The guy is small. He's wearing a white t-shirt. He's wearing jeans. He has colorful tattoos. My girlfriend hits him on the shoulder. She knows him. She says, "This is Orion." I say hello and reach to shake his hand, but he clenches his fist and taps his knuckles against mine. His knuckles are soft. "Did you like my CD?" "Yeah, I was listening to it on the way over." It's nice being off res. I have a room for a studio at my apartment. "Hey, you should come see me play live sometime." His knuckles are soft and his neck is thin. His neck has a checkered white and black keffiyeh wrapped around it. The sergeant and other people on base call it a towel. I call it a keffiyeh. In Iraq, lots of men wear them. The sergeant says both your friends and enemies will wear a towel. So don't get confused by it. It's not an open invitation to engage, but it's not a cue to lower your weapon either. Orion is white. Orion has black hair and blonde roots. He has tattoos and is slowly moving closer to my girlfriend. I sip out of my red plastic cup. For the rest of the night, I stand diagonally behind my girlfriend so I can see everything she sees plus something she doesn't. She is drunk when the party winds down and leans against me. It's nice. Her hair smells good and she is soft. I missed her. I have to drive because she is silly drunk. Her head is rolling around on her shoulders. She slurs the words "I used to miss you" a few times before I stop the car in my driveway. I carry her into the house, up the stairs, and lay her down on my bed. She peels her clothes off and grabs my hand and pulls me on top of her. She coughs out, "You're heavier than I remember." We have sex and I fall asleep holding her. I wake up holding nothing. My girlfriend is already dressed and sitting cross-legged next to my feet. Her hair is messy and she looks sad. She stares at me, moves her mouth up and down, but doesn't say anything. She inhales deep before she begins to speak, but I see a spider on the wall. It is climbing towards the ceiling. I envy its ability to move vertically up the walls. Each of its 8 legs moves in harmony with the others. The spider crosses a small pinhole I made when hanging up a poster I used to own. The spider is covered in brown spines with a small white V on its back. The legs move past the pinhole. The spider navigates around a dent I made with a baseball a long time ago. The dent was an accident, but I meant to throw the baseball. Spider looks like it could be a spider I knew before, so I wish him good luck when he finally makes it to the cobwebs my mom forgot to vacuum. I like the spider. I like the spider. I like the spider.
God, I love that fucking story. I know Rudy's the one who like corresponded with you about it, but there are so many fantastic moments here. And I love how you get the fact that this guy is just out of basic training. He hasn't gone to war or anything, and he's already been broken. Like he's been destroyed. And you capture it like so subtly and so gently. Like the moment when the ping pong ball slows down while he's watching it and the click, click, click. And when he's fixated on the spider, that like sense of drifting attention, that sense of like dissociation, it's so potent. And I know there were a couple typos in there. I saw them while you were going through, and I'm fixing them on the site now. So don't worry about that.
Thanks. This story I wrote, how old am I? I wrote the story 13 years ago. After a story my best friend from elementary school and high school told me about going to Canada's version of basic where they have to do the gas training.
Wow.
And also his girlfriend, going to one of the better universities in like our province, and then him having a similar experience where like he thought she was going to wait for him and she didn't barely waited a couple of weeks.
Right.
And that was kind of like my not really tribute to him, but like my first story that I wrote where it was just complete. It was out of empathy for one of my really good friends who wanted to do a good thing and, paid for it in more ways than one.
Right. No, it's a fantastic story. And you mentioned the thing with the girlfriend, right? And I love the fact that the story never shows that conversation. Intuitively that conversation is about to happen, and you know exactly what that conversation is going to be, but instead you see the spider, right? And that is so much more chilling and so much more effective. No, I mean,
anyone who's had relationships has had a conversation like that where someone is waiting way too long to tell you something and they wait till the last possible moment and it comes out like that, where it just like your hearing kind of goes because you've already known they were going to say for the last week. Sorry, I'm already half a bottle deep, so it's
no, you 100%. 100%. And thank you so much, Dan. That was a fantastic story. I'm glad we had the opportunity to host it. Oh, and I think Rudy wants to say something.
Yeah, dude, that was an awesome. I love the way a lot of it like stretches time or like dilates time and like some parts of it kind of slow down, but then you also have like the parts that like it goes from like kind of slowing down in a philosophical way to slowing down like a really hyper literal type of way, like where he's like viewing just the situation just as it is, and
Yeah.
the part like with the spider and the girlfriend, that like that is just so, it's such a good like juxtaposition like of like shit. It's just really cool.
Thanks. Writing on cough medicine, I recommend it highly for like maybe a month.
Damn, yeah.
DXM is good for that kind of stuff.
Nice. And also, I just want to say sorry about that. The typos are my fault. I kind of hastily had to. I know, but I had some notes to correct them, but I kind of hastily had gone through today because I had a lot of shit to do this morning, and I woke up too fucking early.
No
But yeah,
worries.
sorry about that. But yeah, no, it's a great, phenomenal story, man. I love it.
Thanks for hosting it. I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dan. Thank you for sharing it with us. And I have a feeling that like I'm pretty sleep deprived too. I have a feeling there have been some low sleep nights among the Misery Tourism team the last couple of days. So that's fine. So actually, Rudy, while your mic's up muted, you're up next. And
Yeah.
first, my understanding is that you've got a few things here. You have
Well, the first thing I wanna read is an author had approached me or approached us, James C. Golly.
Yeah, you're going to read. I know that later you're going to demo your game a little bit, and you have another little thing you want to share with us. But first, you're going to read an excerpt from a piece that we published years ago.
This is a very old piece.
This is a very
famous piece, very storied piece.
It's an old storied piece. You are not the author of this piece.
I'm not the author of this. So this
You're
is
not the author of this
James
piece.
C. Golly.
But Rudy and I were talking, and events of this week brought part of this piece to mind, and we thought, well, why not share it? So it's all yours, Rudy.
So I'm going to read from the third section. It has a 3. It's just section number 3. I'm going to read that whole section. Alrighty, here it goes. Tell me, Uncle Tom, how does it feel to be a traitor to your race? Does the master let you sleep on the end of his bed, or did he set you up a cot for you in the chicken coop? On Sunday afternoons, does he give you a whole slice of watermelon, or does he let you just chew on the rinds? The black cop was surrounded, trapped in his own personal Masada, completely flanked by Roman legionnaires uniformed in black wide lapel suits and bow ties. Even from the opposite side of the street, and I didn't dare to cross, I could tell he was terrified. His fruit of the looms ruined courtesy of the fruit of Islam. There were 5 of them, and by this point, a little less than 1 of him. They were unarmed, but so was he. I had rounded the corner just in time to watch them corner him and pull the handgun from his unbuckled holster. They didn't even bother to menace him with it. Their confidence was enough. Their unblinking ideological certainty was more than enough to win this game of chicken, even though they had arrived at Dead Man's Curve with no car to face down the town's favorite son, the varsity idol, and his dad's Thunderbird with the top down. One of them, God damn me for saying this, but they all look the same to me, threw the pistol down a storm drain. Another took the cop's billy club and rolled it under the burned out shell of a Volkswagen that was smoldering in front of a deserted porno theater. They drew in closer to him, tightening the anaconda coil that had already left him breathless, and I took shelter in the doorway of the theater. I didn't want to be seen, and I felt instinctively comfortable there. I had a natural affection for porno theaters, for the aura of mutual discretion and the security you can only find in places that are as dark and dirty as your own apartment on a Wednesday night after 9 hours spent writing, when you know that it's too late to expect even the most inconsiderate company, and the only thing on your mind besides sleep is when to masturbate and for how long. Even though I was still outside with only the shadow of the marquee as concealment, I felt safe, hidden. I had no love for the police, but I couldn't help but pity him. Even a cartoon dog has only 2 X's in its eyes when it's dead meat, and here he was staring down 5. Take off your badge, house nigger. X1 was in his face now, teeth bared, but calm in tone, all force, no anger, and throw it into the gutter. The cop complied. His hand was shaking, but he sunk it on the first throw. No need for a rebound. So much, I thought, for the Spartan motto. Someone else would have to carry his shield home if it didn't end up lining a rat's nest below a metro platform. You know, I grew up on a farm. My daddy was a sharecropper. X2 was behind him now, hands on his shoulders, fingers crawling up his neck. But I've never seen a pig wear a helmet before. Before the cop could respond, the helmet was rolling down the street. I barely saw the slap myself, only heard the crack as the air broke, saw X2's hand dropping back to his side as if it were being holstered. He must have been a motherfucker with an axe on butchering day back on Daddy's 4-acre, certainly not 40, farm. I bet the hogs never even saw it coming. Pigs don't need boots either, nor socks. Whether he was aware of it or not, X3 had passed the point of no return, said the decisive words. Now they were not going to stop until they had stripped this man nude. I'm sure it had not been on any of their minds, devout as they were, straight as they were, when they started. But once you've ordered a man to take off his socks and shoes, with glass and debris and probably shit everywhere, once you've told him that he must go barefoot, and once you've watched him untie and remove 2 boots and roll down and pull off 2 socks without resisting, without even pausing to ask why, you will not stop until you have him bare ass. And when have you ever seen a pig rolling in slop with a shirt buttoned up to his Adam's apple? X4 spoke and the shirt came off. Button by button it undid itself, aided by hands that might have belonged to the shirt itself or to the voice that spoke, but that certainly did not belong to the cop, even if they might have been attached to him. If the coroner performing his autopsy, I wondered if it would go that far, had slit those rifts open with a scalpel and traced the nerves from them through his body to his brain and told me definitely that they were still hooked up, that all the connections were still good and working order, I would not have believed that any neuron of his had given the order to unbutton that shirt, to take it off, one sleeve at a time, or even, for a moment, to start to fold it, as if he were going to wear it again, unwashed, tomorrow. And he did not want his sergeant to notice the wrinkles before letting it fall onto the asphalt. And all that time, those enchanted hands, animated by some force that did not come from inside him, never hesitated, never paused to form a fist. I must have suffered from some enchantment as well, must have lost my own, albeit already tenuous, hold on the real, been transported into some antebellum fantasy, because as his shirt dropped, as he revealed his back to me, I expected it to be covered in scars, to carry the visible impression of the overseer's whip. Of course it did not. Instead, I saw 2 tight rows of muscles with their pectoral complement, and yes, fantastic abs. On the opposite side, evidence of a man who had left the academy recently enough that his body had not had any opportunity to decay, had not been eroded by neglectful hours spent in a squad car or, all right, a donut shop. He was beautiful, dangerous. Maybe he could have fought the 5 of them off, crushed their fists between his shoulder blades, shattered their jaws on his torso. He could have resisted, but he did not. Every one of those immaculate muscles, back and chest, were shaking. Take off your pants. X5 was a minimalist. Unlike your author, he knew that there was power in concision. Every spell requires only a few magic words: abracadabra, bippity boppity boo, zippity doodah, separate but equal. The magician spoke and the pants came off. Now he wore only his underwear. I was wrong when I suggested that he had soiled them. They're unstained, pristine, whiter than his commanding officer, and they were bulging. He was erect and not half staff either, but rather 100% fully aroused. He was getting off on this. The whole time that he had been standing there, quaking in mortal terror, his cock had been getting harder and harder, and now, hidden below his cotton undies, there was a tremendous creature born of oppression and resentment, perhaps older than him, maybe even older than the plantation shed where his grandmother had to kneel on the dirt floor, on the cotton seeds and chicken feed, with her master's member between her lips, a creature that was superficially his, that was from him, of him, but that he only imagined he could control. I thought of the Hebrew golem, avenging pilgrims long after its creator had died, maybe even, depending on the legend, by its clay hands. And he had been blushing with embarrassment throughout the whole ordeal. I had no idea that there was enough blood in a man's body to make his face so red and his dick so hard at the same time. His heart must have barely been beating. No one told him to take off his briefs. He performed that last act unbidden. He needed no instruction. Here, then, was the sorcerer, the will that had commandeered his hands, that was stronger than his brain or the muscles of his back or his captors, the preternatural intelligence that had contrived to turn a lynching into a striptease. The cock was out. I am a believer in parallel universes. It's my professional responsibility to be. And I know there must be better and worse realities than our own. In one of these realities, I am sure he took them, all 5 of them, with that fierce, merciless dick in full command, tearing apart those thrift store suits, rending those Sunday Friday slacks, and consuming them one by one, gagged with their own bow ties, red now for more reason than one. And I suppose in some crueler, uglier universe, that erection was the excuse, the permission slip, signed by Allah, but call him daddy, that they needed to beat that cop to death on the spot, to make him the martyr of a sexuality that he probably did not know he had, the child that stands for the first time and falls from its chair onto the fireplace slate. But this universe is not ruled by triumph or tragedy so much as awkwardness. Our gods prefer Schadenfreude to destiny. So the cop stood there for a moment, watching them, watching him, his fully inflated penis bobbing up and down like a rescue buoy in the hands of a drowning man like a skyscraper during an earthquake. They hesitated, as we all do when faced with the unexpected, particularly when the unexpected is a massive black hard-on, and that moment of hesitation was his liberator. He broke through their ranks, or maybe they parted before him, afraid to be touched by it, and ran for freedom. They did not try to catch him. He ran past me on his flight, his erection fully intact, dick flapping much more intensely now, almost invisible, more wave than matter, the lines a cartoonist draws to indicate a body in motion. He ran past me and he was gone. He was gone, and there, without him, in the shadow of the porno marquee, in the shadow of what I had watched and what I hadn't done, I felt, suddenly, senselessly, regret. I felt lonely. I sat down in the doorway. I didn't cry, but I wanted to.
You killed that. Thank you, man.
Hey, James C. Golly killed that.
Yeah.
And
hats off to James.
That's off to James. I just want to say, everybody should read this entire story, the story in its entirety, because it has a very it has powerful vibes. I'll just say that. It's one of the most powerful, one of the more powerful and poignant, but also pornographic stories that we publish. So yeah, it's definitely good shit.
It's certainly one of those things.
Do you guys know anything about the author? Like, does he still like submit or contribute, or is that the only time you've heard from him?
I would
Well,
I would say we've published 3 pieces by this particular, we've credited 3 pieces to this particular author. If you click on his name, you can see what those 3 pieces are, and you can draw whatever conclusions you want to draw from that.
Oh, that's okay. I
powerful author, honestly, powerful all around and well known.
Okay, Rudy, you had more shit for us though.
Yeah. So I wanted to I have a kind of work in progress game that is not playable, but I just wanted to show it off. It's kind of a game about it's basically a school shooting board game. And yeah, so I wanted to show that off, and I have a kind of conceptual idea for a Twitter account that I wanted to run by people too. So that was one thing. So if it's okay, I'd like to share my screen here.
Go for it.
Okay. And this game does have audio, and the audio is kind of a strong component. I'm not sure if it'll come through, but I'm going to try to work the screen share thing so that it does. So let me see if I can get this going here. Share screen. Okay, let's see here. Can people hear the audio or?
Yes. Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I can. It's a little subtle, but actually that's probably for the best, but I can definitely hear it.
Very good. So the concept of this game is basically it's a board game where based around Columbine or the Columbine Legendarium, I guess, sort of, since it's not directly, a copy of the incident or anything like that. But the basic idea is the main mechanic involves bullet time, but the bullets move when you move the mouse. So when you go to manipulate your character or do anything on the screen, the bullets actually move around, and that actually changes turns. Every time the bullets hit something, the turn changes. So I was just the shooter, now I'm the victims. Now the bullets right now don't kill anybody, but they do move around and they hit walls and stuff like that. So what I'm doing right now is I'm moving the victims' characters. It's a victims versus shooter thing because of course it is. And the way it works is basically the shooter is trying to get as many kills off as they can within the constraints of basically the bullets switching turns. And also the shooter has to keep a bullet live at all times. So they have to keep a bullet in the air at all times, moving around, or the game ends. So yeah, I'm just gonna move this around. Oh, okay. Well, now it's back to the shooter's turn, so I want to show you something else. So the other thing is, so like the main mechanic revolves mouse movement. So like the bullets will move whenever the mouse moves. So these things are part of the HUD. This is your gun. This is a lighter, which you can use to light pipe bombs and cigarettes, of course. And so whenever you move any of these things, you can see the bullet traveling right now. So yeah, it's kind of about managing like how you move the mouse and how you position these objects that are part of your HUD to win the game. So what I were to do is to kill as many people as you can. So yeah, so I'm gonna light a cigarette. And that is a preview of another mechanic, the Colorado Outlaw, who will kill all cops that are on the screen if you are able to win a game of Russian roulette against them. Yeah. But as you can see up here, you have like this little scroller. I think they call it a Chiron on the news. I think that's what like the official name for it or whatever. But basically, like it's a news network. As you can see, this is the Voyeur News Network, VNN, coming to you live from somebody's basement. And basically, like this thing is going to show. Right now, it's just showing facts about Columbine. But later on in the progress of the game, it's going to be showing things like what the players are doing and like give the victims hints about where the shooter is. Because the way I imagine this being played is kind of like a hot seat thing where like one person, the shooter makes their moves and shoots all their bullets and does whatever they're going to do. And then the victims, they flip the computer to the victims and the victims make their moves without really seeing what the shooter is doing. Probably not going to do network play for this because I think it has an audience of about 2 people, 2 of which are in this call right now. So probably not doing network play for this one. But yeah, I mean, that's basically it. There's a mechanic where like the 3rd bullet fired will ricochet, and I'll see if I can see that. Oh, guess not. But yeah, that's basically it. There it is. Bullet just ricocheted. So you can ricochet bullets and kill additional people. There's also a shit list mechanic where if you target a person who's on your shit list, then you instantly kill them and the bullet instantly travels to them. So there's that. I mean, it's just kind of a hodgepodge of mechanics right now, but that's what I'm working with right now, and I just wanted to show it all.
I mean, I love this game. But no, what I want to talk about here, actually, how did you do this? Like, not the mechanics, but the aesthetics of this game, because this is far and away like your most aesthetically fucking spectacular game yet. Like, how did you make the Colorado Outlaw? Did you draw him? Did you assemble him in GIMP? Like, how did you?
No. So I can I'll actually just share my screen here again, if that's okay.
Sure.
Everybody's cool with that.
I just really want to know how you made him, how you made the HUD elements, how you assembled it, because it's a really like aesthetically captivating piece of work, I think. Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, so this is inside of Construct 3, which Construct 3 is a game program you can use to design like HTML5 games, which basically, like their HTML5 is basically the successor like Flash and that kind of shit. And I use it to design games. So the Colorado Outlaw actually is made up of a couple things. So he's like this, like the shimmer that's around him, kind of like the ghostly shimmer or whatever he is. That's kind of like it's just a sprite. And this is his main sprite, which was assembled with public domain artwork that I found on Pixabay.com. And that's another
Just to be
thing.
clear, multiple pieces of public.
Multiple pieces. Actually,
Oh
just
my
2.
God.
Just 2 pieces.
You can see
It's the cowboy and the head. Yeah.
Shit.
So the sound design, I have a couple of sound sheets or a couple of sound things. As you can see by the name, this one is literally the 911. The victim sound is literally the 911 call from Patty. I forget her last name, but it's literally from Columbine. Both of them are from Columbine. They're from a site. I took them from a site called columbinesite.org or .com. I think it's like the premier like true crime Columbine site or so. I mean, I don't know if that's like what it is, but that's what it seems like. I know true crime people I've seen on Tumblr posted it, and I found there the stuff from the Columbine notebooks, which were actually revealed by the police when they did their big reveal of that stuff. All the killers like notes and the stuff they'd scribbled in their notebooks. So like if you look here, see if I can move this away here. So there's different layers here, but I think if you look at the gotta shut off all the HUD and stuff. Okay, so like all these sprites, like these are assembled from this is directly from the Columbine notebook. And this is a drawing that either Eric or Dylan made for, just for whatever. I think it's supposed to be like a Doom Marine, or it might be just them dressed up as a Doom Marine going to shoot their classmates. I'm not really sure, honestly.
So
but
the avatars in the game, the like images in the game are actually from the Columbine notebooks.
Yeah, these are all actually from, and if you look at the one for the victim here,
this is an incredible piece of like deranged and evil art.
the Abercrombie and Fitch. Like, I mean, it's just so great. Like, I had to use some of them. Like, I figured if I'm gonna make a Columbine game, like all that shit, like I'm pretty sure it's public. I mean, it came from the sheriff's office, so it's public domain. Like, there's nobody stopping me from using it, so I'm gonna use it. The audio, I wanted to say something
Nobody
about.
but your conscience, man.
But no, so the audio came from this guy on Freesound called Demo Link, and he or she, I'm not sure, but some Russian, of course, but they made a this awesome like atmospheric, almost Doom style music. They have a couple of tracks on there, and one is a Doom style thing that sounds almost like, like Hanger or something like that. But the other one is this really atmospheric, like kind of like almost like art house sounding kind of like noise type. And that's the one that I used for the first track, the Shooters track. And what I did is I combined that with audio from the shooting, which I took from a Columbine site, and then I put some filters on it and basically just shortened it up a little bit, and it loops around constantly in the game. As far as this, and I'm just gonna totally just pimp Construct 3 here, and hey Ashley, give me free, give me a free month of Construct for doing this, bro.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll appreciate this.
No, Construct 3, if you haven't seen it, it's an amazing tool, and this is a new feature here. This is called a 3D object or a 3D shape. What you can do is you can basically decorate this thing just like a real wall, and this here is a locker. And before Construct 3 could only really do two-dimensional stuff, but this latest update that's been pushed, and I think it's the latest revision, has enabled me to do all of this that you see here, basically all these 3D walls and 3D shapes. It's on just the floor is just like a standard kind of tile map, and that allows like the detection of where the shooter is and stuff like that. Like, I don't know if you saw when the shooter was moving, like it has some squares in red and some are in gray. The grayed out ones are where you can move. The red ones are where you can't move based on what you can see. And that's all enabled through a feature of Construct called raycasting, which is basically what it sounds like. It's like it shoots a line in a direction, basically in this case in all directions, and if it bounces off something, then it can process that and that kind of stuff. So this, once again, just pimping Construct 3 because it is a fucking hugely amazing tool. It's the best. Like, there's no way I would be able to do any of this without this program. And it's if you're thinking about game design or development or anything like that, like, don't be scared. Like, this is super easy. Like, I can just slide this shit around and move it. I can make new objects on command. Like I said, all these layers and stuff like that, the Colorado Outlaw, just jump in, just do it. I mean, it's fun, and this was fun to make. Like, a lot of the games, and I'll shut up soon, but a lot of the games that I make are really not super fun to make. But this has been like a blast to put together. So that's all I want to say about that.
No, that is so fucking wild, and I had no idea that like it was that easy to put it. God damn it, I'm gonna have to put the paid promotion thing on here again now. But no, yeah.
Oh shit, yeah, sorry.
No, that's the running joke now. But yeah, no, that was fucking awesome, man. And you had one third and final quick thing I think to run by us, and then if anyone wants, we will do a very quick open mic. So if you're interested in participating in that, just put it down in the chat. If not, we'll move on to the like after party or whatever. Okay.
Well, this thing, like, this is just kind of a joke around thing. So if anybody wants to do open mic, like, you can just jump in, because I'll read this in open mic when people are done. So
Okay. GG has a quote unquote quick, short, silly thing. So let's you with us, GG?
Yeah, this got like posted to Blake Middleton's little kind of Tumblr press that he ran a couple of years ago. Just a silly thing. Oh, it's pretty quick. This is called Cowboy Roland. I want beer and I want it to make me feel okay forever. I have a strong desire to call anyone who apologizes for the quality of their work in a workshop class a shit-ass McBurger penis. Some people don't know that if David Foster Wallace didn't hang himself, he wouldn't have died. Try hard Foster Wallace. Gordon Ramsay uses room temp egg whites and unsalted butter as lube for masturbation. Gordon Ramsay dissects his shits like a biologist studying owl pellets. David Blaine once held his breath for a really long time in public. I don't know, this just seems so ridiculous, everything about it. Alternating gulps of wine and inhales of hash smoke, mumbling Gwen Stefani lyrics to myself. Briefly fantasized about having a successful YouTube channel with videos of me putting together Lego sets. Haven't put on deodorant in weeks. The guy at the weed store who kind of looks like Rob Dyrdek has seen me enough to recognize me and call me bro. I don't like me. Why can't I puke something useful like bullets? I want grape ice cream. I want to take turns holding and being held and crying with Daniel Johnston. I feel depressed because Johnny Hobo and Daniel Johnston will never make a collaborative album. I think I'm going to get fucked up and cook a steak tonight. I feel strange anytime I see a picture of me because I often think of myself as a seagull. Why are people allowed to have kids? Maturing by realizing that you don't hate the world, just yourself and your inability to deal with it. Medical beer is a real thing. Thinking about my penis as a big nipple. Poetry is stupid and boring. Just notice some dried cum on my shorts. Ha 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 ha, I'm miserable. We should be shooting into graves, making sure the dead are dead. One day I will move into a place that has a dishwasher, and I will get drunk and stoned with it. It will be my only friend. Fuck all of you. That's all I got.
Oh my God, as usual, you fucking killed it. Did this make it into your, I'm gonna use this chance to pimp it. Did this make it into your poetry collection at all? No? This is
Literally, this is Blake and I were just like kind of chatting back and forth on Twitter and like just being Twitter friends or whatever. And he was like, can you submit something? And I was like, all right. So I just like sent him a long list of tweets and he just picked some and it's like, all right, we can publish this.
Oh, that's awesome. So these are actually your tweets then.
Yeah, that's why it's so kind of disjointed and stupid.
That's fucking amazing. And that reminds me, I'm just putting in another request for a collab between you and Nathaniel Duggan, even if it's like a tweet collab. The two of you operate on the same bandwidth, you have the same fucking energy. I want to see a collab between you. I want to see a chapbook of tweets. That's your tweets and his tweets.
I'm gonna go through our DMs and I'll censor a lot of it, but just so we don't get put in jail. But then I think you might enjoy that. That might be fun. I don't know.
You should do that. You should get him to come on here. The two of you can go back and forth. You can read it together. That would be awesome. Okay.
I mean, he has a girlfriend, but I'll try. Okay.
God damn it. That's how we lose everyone. Thank you so much, Gigi. You killed it as usual.
Well, that's how I almost lose girlfriends, is by being on here.
Ooh.
Oh shit.
Wait, I think Todd has something.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Todd, it's.
Hello.
Hey, Todd. How's it
Can
going?
everybody hear me okay?
Yeah,
Sounding great, Todd.
clearly.
Okay, great. Let me drop a link in the chat.
Mhm.
Okay, here we go. Hello. My name is Todd, and I'm an alcoholic. I guess. I mean, maybe. But what's this obsession with labels? Everyone always has to be something these days. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a white male. I'm cisgendered. I'm this. I'm that. Listen, before I consent to adopt the rather insulting appellation with which this little meetup seems determined to label me, perhaps it would be wise if we could arrive, as a group, at a mutually agreeable definition of the term alcoholic itself. Who's to say, really, what an alcoholic is? Or when a particular person's drinking has crossed over the line, say, from enjoyable nightly ritual to debilitating and catastrophic life-destroying illness? For the answer, I suggest we turn, as I rather often do, to the greatest film critic our nation has ever produced, and a personal hero of mine, the late, great Roger Ebert. I'm sure you're all familiar with the man and his work, whether it be from watching the hit syndicated talk show he shared with the witty, cerebral Gene Siskel, in my opinion, Ebert's only worthy sparring partner, or better still, from reading the thousands of wonderful essays he gave us during his 4+ decades tenure as chief film critic for the Chicago Sun-Times, each one more insightful and entertaining than the last. Suffice it to say, if you've ever heard the phrases 2 thumbs up or 4 stars, you have none but the GOAT Roger Ebert to thank for that. But Ebert did not produce only criticism. Oh no, Ebert was much more than just a movie hound. In a tender and searchingly honest confessional posted to the RogerEbert.com blog, Ebert described the first stages of his own recovery journey. He regaled us with harrowing tales of his nightmarish struggles with the demons of addiction. And he touched and moved us with insights drawn from his own personal sojourns into the world of 12-step meetings, surrendering, and finally, bravely overcoming the wine god's insidious seductions. The essay's first paragraph contains perhaps the most intriguing definition of the term alcoholic I've ever encountered. Here's what Roger Ebert says. He says that if you're an alcoholic, you take the first drink, the second drink takes you. I'll repeat it once more so you can really absorb its meaning. Hope you're all listening. It's a doozy. You take the first drink, the second drink takes you. Fascinating, don't you think? Now, you may say that this definition is straightforward, and I might be inclined to agree with you. But what, pray tell, does Ebert mean when he uses the term second drink? If he refers only to alcoholic beverages in the strictest sense of the term, well, I'm not sure I really qualify then. Perhaps I don't belong in this meeting at all. I've never had a problem turning down a second glass of Merlot, a second vodka martini, a second Coors. You get the idea. But if, when he says second drink, he happens to mean something more along the lines of seventh injection of ketamine-infused crystal meth administered by a towering 7.5-foot-tall lizard man with an electric pink mohawk and neon green scales on the roof of a mansion on Fire Island owned by a probably fictitious guy named Larry, and if, as the plunger injects its intoxicating mixture through the point of the needle to the blood of your vein, your eyeballs pop clean out of your skull and your back arches backwards like little Linda Blair's did in the 1973 horror classic The Exorcist, which Ebert awarded 4 stars back when it came out in 1973, by the way, calling it a cry of pain and one of the best movies of its type ever seen. And if, as all of this transpires, you blink your eyes closed momentarily, and when you open them again, you're sitting in the front row of a tiny movie theater, just like the one from Siskel and Ebert, only instead of excerpts from Rambo or Silence of the Lambs up on the screen, you're viewing a kind of home movie clips compilation consisting of scenes depicting the manifold sorrows and scant joys of your pathetic young life, all the many mistakes you've made and the people you've hurt and the chances you've squandered, and the whole thing's narrated by the genius of evil himself, Satan, his voice resounding through the theater's interior and reverberating around in your skull till you feel like your head's about to burst like that poor schmuck at the end of the movie Scanners, until finally, when you think you won't be able to take any more of it, you open your eyes and find yourself in a hospital bed, a gray-haired woman psychiatrist standing above you barking questions like, what seems to be the problem? And what are the voices saying now, Todd? And if you say, well, Doc, I think I'm starting to get a little confused about which things are happening in the real world and which things are happening in the imaginary world inside my own private Idaho. I mean, did I say Idaho? Ha ha, head, Doc. I mean head. And by the way, is this still a movie that we're in right now? And if so, what's the genre? And how many stars did Ebert give us? I hope at least 3. Otherwise, it's a thumbs down. Oh, and Doc, I'm pretty sure I've broken my pinky toe, so I wonder if you could take a look for me. And if, when you tell her this, the doctor says, oh dear, and grins, the edges of her wolfish smile creeping up the sides of her face until her head looks like it'll split apart and a demonic entity will shuffle out like a fucking body snatcher from the movie Body Snatchers, and if she then says, oh dear, I'm afraid this whole leg is going to have to go. As to the genre question, this ought to clear things up. And if, producing a cartoonishly large and rusty-looking antique bone saw, the doctor proceeds to liberate your right leg from its socket, sawing back and forth through muscle and bone and splattering blood and viscera on the floor, walls, and even the ceiling, and if all you can do is this catastrophe unfold to scream and pray to a god you hope doesn't exist, because if he did and allowed this kind of thing to happen, what kind of a sick, sadistic fuck is the guy anyway? And if then you wake up yet again, in a whole different hospital, only this time your left wrist has been handcuffed to the bed, and sitting beside you is a lumpy, red-faced policewoman who's fallen asleep in her cup of hospital vending machine coffee, and you think to yourself as you watch her blow bubbles in the coffee with the tip of her nose, what the hell did you do this time, Todd, you miserable, worthless, pond-scum-swilling moron? And if it turns out, apparently, that what you did, allegedly, was chop a hole the size of a cantaloupe melon in your girlfriend Sadie's sweet, fat face with an axe, and if that's why you're here in this meeting today, having been convicted of said murder and sentenced to 7 consecutive life sentences in the Fishkill Correctional Facility in Fishkill, New York, well, fine. If that's what Ebert says when he says second drink, then okay, you win. I'm a fucking alcoholic.
Holy shit. Well, I mean, God damn it. Holy fucking shit. As Gigi asked, do you even need to breathe? Holy shit, you fucking killed it. But first of all, I just want to say, as a fellow lifelong fan of like Siskel and Ebert, man, I grew up on that shit. I swear to God, you want to know what kind of like nerd and loser I am? Fucking 12 years old. That shit's on. That shit is on 11:30 midnight too. It is not on during the day. I had to stay up past my fucking bedtime to watch that shit. And I was sitting there watching this Siskel and Ebert, and it was religious. It was a fucking Friday night or something too. I mean, I know I'm a kid, but I could have been at a friend's house. I could have been playing video games. And I'm sitting there religiously watching that shit. And so this story, when you submitted it to us and I read it, it hit me in a very special personal place. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was always a fan of Ebert. I love his. I feel like he was like the last one. I don't know if there's a critic that I would ever even care to look
Yeah.
at.
No,
He-
it was
he,
the
like,
same. Sorry, it was
He
the same
ended the
for
whole
me.
thing.
Like,
Yeah, but I
once
think
he
I'm gonna
died,
do like,
that was it. Like, I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes and I'm looking at the average, that
yeah.
was the end.
Ugh. Well, that's that.
No, that was
Thanks.
fucking wonderful. Thank you so much. So anyone else have anything to share before we end it tonight? There's still room. Oh, wait, Rudy, you had one last thing, right? Oh, if he's still with us. Maybe he snuck off to the bathroom or something.
He might be out of breath after that one.
I'm so good. Yeah. Does anyone want to read anything while we wait to see if Rudy returns? Wonder if I can peer pressure Sarah into actually reading this time. I know she read she read one of the erotic poems about literary nobodies, but she's never read her own work. I don't see her unmuting. Nope. All right, Rudy, I hate to say this, but this is last call for you. No? Okay, well, he can share what he's going to share during the after party or next time then. Okay, well, this has been Misery Loves Company. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for reading. This was a particularly fun one. A lot of energy tonight, lots of really fucking fantastic, not at all transgressive, not at all offensive, just good, wholesome fucking, yeah, okay, I know. Okay, all right. So this has been Misery Loves Company. If you're watching this on YouTube and they didn't take the video down for the Columbine shit, we do this every week. We do it every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific. If you follow us on Twitter at Misery Tourism, we tweet out the Zoom link. Anyone is welcome to come, join us, lurk, read, whatever. That's it, guys. Thank you so much.